Welcome to another episode of Canopy Practice Success. I am your host, Casey Brothers. I am joined today by Heather Satterley. Heather is a CPA, educator, and innovator who helps accounting professionals transform the way they work. She's the Director of Education and Media at Woodard, where she leads programs that empower accountants to build better businesses and lives. You might also know her as the co-host of the Appy Hour with Liz and Heather, a show that brings together accounting pros and software vendors, or apps, to explore the latest tools and tech shaping the industry. Heather is passionate about process automation, community building, and helping firms embrace change. And she's been recognized as one of Accounting Today's top 100 most influential people and a top 10 pro advisor. Heather, it is so good to have you on the podcast.
Casey, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Good. I mean, just reading your intro and getting to know you a little bit before too. So congratulations first on being a top 100 most influential person as named by Accounting Today. That's got to be a reflection of a serious list of accomplishments.
Well, thank you very much. You know, that was something, my mom is also a CPA. And I got to tell you, that was a very cool moment for me. It was kind of like, look, Ma, what I did. I always joke with my friends that I was a one-hit wonder. You have those people that are on the Accounting Today top 100 influential list. 2019 was my year. It was amazing. I honestly couldn't believe that it happened. But, you know, I also would say, little old me.
Yeah.
It was a very cool thing, for sure.
Let's talk about a couple things. Even in your intro, we hinted at how you help firms embrace change. I'm very aware of this as, you know, someone who works at a software that is one of the biggest reasons why people might not purchase us is because of their fear of change and everything that comes with it. But I want to even take it back a step. Why should firms change? I feel like we talk a lot about tech and advances and things, but like let's take it back again really quick to remind firms why, though what they're doing today, comfortable as it may seem, and as it may seem like it works, why bother changing? It's working, isn't it? For most people, or is it not?
You know, that's a great question. And when you're in the middle of it, and that's all you've known for 5, 10, 20, 30 years, you may not know what change actually looks like. And if you never step outside of the treadmill and what you've been doing the same way, you're really holding yourself back from growth. And I don't mean growth like revenue growth, number of clients growth, although all those things are really great. What I'm talking about is growth as a human, growth of expansion of your mind, expansion of your skills, of the things that you notice, and of the potential that you have in every aspect of your life. So if you're really resistant to change, and change is scary, it's uncomfortable, but it's so necessary to kind of reach that next level and to experience new things in your life.
Yes. So I've been fangirling lately. I think I've disclosed this on the podcast over Arthur C. Brooks. Are you familiar with him?
I'm not.
His content is so good, Heather. And based on the things I know you're interested in, I think you would really like him. He's a professor at Harvard Business. He's a writer. He's written several books. And he writes a column for The Atlantic all on happiness. And he talks a lot about meaning and satisfaction in life and how us as humans are not meant, how did he say it? Something like we're not really made to achieve goals, to arrive is the word he uses. We are made to thrive in progress. And that when that arrival comes, I don't know if you've heard this, but there's this feeling that Olympians have even after winning a gold medal. They've just won a gold medal and they can often experience depression afterward because it's that point of arrival. And it's like, well, then what's next? How do I progress? And I bring that up because that's my why for change, to your point of like just growing as a human. It can be about so many things. It can be about like the two biggest, when you talk about anybody trying to sell you anything, ultimately, in my opinion, it comes down to time or money. Does it save you time, make your time more? Time is finite. So how can I use my time better, right? Does it earn me more money? I feel like those are ultimately what people are trying to get at when they try to sell you something. But I think you hit a third that like nobody will ever lean on in terms of selling you something, but it's something that you as a person need to recognize that there's that element of growth, of progress, of getting better at things. And I think from there, you and I could unpack so many things.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, joy.
Mm.
Joy is something that we really need to strive for. And it's funny, you talked about Arthur and, he writes on happiness, which, joy is the same thing. When, I actually had a podcast interview with Kristen Keats, who is one of the co-founders of Breakwater, just last week. And that is her mission, is to bring joy back to accounting.
Mm.
And in our conversation, I was like, so tell me what joy in accounting looks like, right? But there is joy. And I think the joy in accounting and in anywhere in your life is the thing that you smile, right? You smile when you feel it. You know it. You know it when you see it. And here's the thing that I learned about, I think 4 years ago, is that the joy can actually come from practicing spontaneous smiling. So if you're one of those people that gets caught in your office and you're doing all the things, and yes, we enjoy our work. And if you would ask me 5 years ago why I work so much, I would say, well, I don't look at it as work. I find it really fun, right? I enjoy what I do. I love what I do. I don't mind being in the office for 15 hours a day because I enjoy it. But one of the things about doing that is I never went outside my office. I mean, I did. I have a family and things, so I did things. But most of what I did in my life was out of obligation. It was because I was stuck in that place of here's what I in my mind think I'm supposed to be doing. The work that I'm doing is because I felt like it was the way it was supposed to be done. And as soon as you kind of stop and say, you step outside of that and you let yourself feel joy, that changes. So the spontaneous smiling thing, I wish I could tell you where I heard that, but it really did change my mind. Go ahead.
I knew I had heard something in the same vein, and I just looked it up. Not in terms of spontaneous smiling, but I can see why that's the suggestion, because get this. How many times on average do you think a child smiles per day?
Hundreds.
400. How
Okay.
many times a day do you think an adult smiles a day?
4.
A little bit more, 20. But
20.
still,
Okay.
relative to a child. I mean, I have a 6-year-old, an almost 4-year-old, right? And the things that they think are hilarious, their bar is low and they smile and laugh all the time. And so to me, that is very logical to then recommend just smile spontaneously to try and close that gap and the effect that has on us psychologically and our performance and our ability to produce.
100%. And I mean, there's science out there too. When you smile, there's some chemical things that happen in your body. There's a dopamine rush when you smile. So that's the happiness hormone. So the spontaneous smiling thing I started 4 years ago, and it was really making the conscious decision to allow myself to smile. And what I had found was I didn't smile very often because I was afraid that people would look at me and be like, what is she smiling about? It was that self-consciousness of like, if I just walk down the street and see a flower that I think is beautiful and I smile for no reason, that somebody on the outside looking in might think I'm weird or, what's wrong with that lady? And I decided to kick that to the curb, Casey. I decided to say, I don't care what they think. If I see a beautiful flower and it makes me happy, I'm going to smile. And so that's when I started practicing spontaneous smiling. And it works.
And what does that look like? Like you're just like, is it you're trying to get your brain and body to connect more? So you're consciously thinking, smile, Heather, smile. And then you smile? Or like, what does that look like in practice? What does that look like in your firm? Are you in a meeting with your client, grinning ear to ear, saying smile, smile, smile? Like, what does that look like? Yeah.
So what it looks like is giving yourself permission to let yourself smile. It's giving yourself a permission to acknowledge joy, right? So, for example, I went for a hike. I think it was yesterday. Yeah, I went for a hike yesterday morning. And I try to go for a hike, 3 to 4, and it's really just a walk in nature, right? So when I go for a hike in nature, there's, right now I'm in Connecticut. It's the fall. Everything is beautiful. Everything is beautiful. So it used to be that I would walk and be very stoic and just kind of look at things and, I would notice them and I might feel them. But it's almost like the act of smiling for me, it becomes like a speaker, like an amplifier. It's like you feel that thing, but when you smile, it gets louder.
Okay, so I finished reading a book recently by another person I'm a big fan of. His name's Jonathan Haidt. He's
Okay.
written, if you're familiar, he's written The Happiness Hypothesis.
Yes.
He's written a number of other books. Anyway, the book I read recently was The Anxious Generation. He's done a lot of research on the internet, social media, its impacts on kids. He's also a professor at NYU, and he talked about, he's teaching, would that be Gen Z already in college? 19-year-olds to, 21. And they're people who are probably on the early end of having a childhood affected by all of these things, right? Now in their adult years. He talked about giving them an assignment to go on what he called, I believe, an awe walk. And they're in New York City. And he's like, you can do this anywhere. But I think the requirements were simply don't have headphones. So don't be listening to anything and don't have your phone out. Pay attention to where you're at, what you're walking through. He's like, and it had profound effects for even those people who walked past the iconic architecture in New York City. But he said it had larger impacts on those who chose to go to parks, to be in nature. And he said, I don't know if he had metrics in terms of how it impacted the work his students turned in that week, but he said those entries or those papers or whatever the assignment was were some of the greatest work he had seen by his students in years. The reflections they had. So to your point about like going out in nature, I think is really the big thing. And I've seen a lot of research around this. And then your point about smiling, enjoying it, taking it in. Believe it or not, take an hour out of, instead of doing 10 hours of work, do 9 hours, take an hour to have an awe walk, a hike, to get your blood pumping, to expose yourself to sunlight first thing in the morning. These are things I'm hearing a lot about with researchers right now. And you will get more done in those 9 hours than you got done in the 10 hours previous. 100%. And you'll be happier.
Yes, absolutely. It's changing that pattern that you have in your life. It's change, right? It's being brave enough to walk out the door. Even if it's just walking out into a parking lot and looking up at a tree that's in the parking lot, you may see a bluebird in that tree. Smile at it, right? Like, look at how blue it is. Look at the pattern on it. Like, notice those things. Allow yourself to notice those things. And really it really will have an incredibly positive impact. I did that yesterday. I was working on a really tough project. That's why I went for the walk. And I was just feeling like, am I ever going to get this done? Right.
Yeah.
And so going for the walk recharged me. When I came back, I was ready to go. I ended up having a super productive day. And then I had the memories of those incredible colors of the leaves, the stillness of the water, mushrooms, all the things that I saw during that, that 45-minute walk, carried me through the rest of the day.
Yeah. Back to, you mentioned dopamine. You get cortisol too with stress.
Yeah.
And when your cortisol levels are high, it's harder to function and to function well. And these things are things that help you reset those levels. And yeah.
You asked me how I got myself to smile. And I don't think I really answered that question. And what I would tell you is at first I had to remind myself to do it. So when I would see something, it would be like, smile.
Yeah. You had to
and
have
it was almost a defiance.
Consciousness of brain, tell your face to smile. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. Building that muscle memory.
And part of it was a defiance. So part of it was an empowering thing for me to tell myself, I'm smiling in the face of, I know that there's people around me that are probably going to think I'm weird. And I'm okay with that. So there's an empowering part of that, of like, I'm being authentically me. Right. And that happens, I don't know, that probably happened for, a couple of weeks of practicing it. Now I don't think about it. What I will think about is when the smile actually happens, it makes me smile even bigger because then I realize I'm doing it. And then that just feels really awesome too. So, and the other thing is babies. Like, I smile spontaneously. And now every time I see a baby, I'm smiling and they smile back. And it's like getting this reflection of the happiness right back at me. And little kids and even adults, not all adults, but when another adult catches me smiling and I get one back, it's even cooler.
It is. It is so cool. And you think of that, like, you're giving all these examples just as a human, which I think is really great. But let's put that in practice for the accountant. You talk to your client and you have a smile on your face.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine the impact that has on that relationship. Their willingness to tell you things, their excitement to see you, they're decreasing their likelihood of being brisk or rude or whatever, and just increasing the overall effectiveness of the interactions. I'm making assumptions, but you're nodding your head.
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, where my brain was going with that is for the most part, yes. When you show up with a positive attitude and you're smiling and, in my opinion, when you smile more, the way you look at life just changes. It just changes. And I know it's a small thing, but there's times that you'll go into a meeting and you can find that it's not appropriate to smile, right? Like there's times where it is allowing, I think it's allowing yourself to smile when you see the opportunity to do it, right?
100%.
But yeah, I think that the more you do it for yourself, the more you're able to bring it to others, including your clients, including your team members, and then making them understand that it's okay for them to smile because they're probably feeling exactly what I used to feel was people are going to think I'm weird. But if they see you doing it, it ends up being contagious.
Oh, 100%.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, and I did read the book, The Happiness Hypothesis.
So good.
Years
So
ago.
good.
Great
Put it
book.
on your list.
Yes.
Well, you also talked to me before we hopped on here and actually started recording about something else you started recently that has impacted you so positively that even your coworkers were like, Heather, why didn't you do this years before? Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So I have always loved horses my whole life. I have loved horses. I was the little kid that you're driving past the farms and horse, just really love them. And I did ride a bit as a child. About 4 or 5 years ago during COVID, I had taken a women's leadership class and they asked us to write down all the things we were going to accomplish in our lives when we were a kid, right? Write down all the things when you're a kid that you're going to do. And I wrote all those things down and at the next day they asked us to look at the list and then go through it and write down, do we still want to do it? Number one, is it possible? Number two, and then if it is possible, like flying, if you wanted to fly, obviously, fly without a plane, that's an impossible thing to do. But, if it was possible, why weren't you doing it now? And is it something that you could do now? Well, after that exercise, at the very top of my list was own a horse, right? It was just one of those things like when I was a kid, I'm like, one day I'm going to own a horse. And so I thought about it and I was like, okay, well, I didn't do it before because horses are really expensive. I had kids, I had a family, I had a career. And then the next question was, could I do it now? I'm like, well, I could definitely go take a lesson. Like that's something that I could do. And so I did it. So I went out that day and I put out on Nextdoor, the app in my neighborhood. And I said, I am a 50-something-year-old woman. I want to ride a horse. And within 30 minutes, a woman that was on a board with me said, my daughter, who I knew, just started taking riding lessons at a local barn on Wednesday night. It's all women, adult women. You should go. And so I did. And within a month, I was riding 2 days a week. Within 6 weeks, it was 3 days a week. 6 months later, I bought my horse Marley. And I have to tell you that, I had always knew there was like horse people, but because I had never put myself in the position of being a horse person, I never really thought of myself as a horse person. I thought of myself as somebody who loves horses. But what I found was I am a horse person. When I have horses in my life, I'm a different person. I'm happier. I'm calmer.
There's a reason why there's such a thing as equestrian therapy. Yeah.
And so after doing that, after making that what started out as like a 2-hour investment once a week, when I came back to my team, they said, in our meetings, they were like, we wish you had done this before. You're bringing, their words were, you're bringing something to this company that we desperately needed and you weren't able to bring before you started doing that other thing. And what that was investing in me as a human, right? And something that was outside of work, which we're in a service industry. It's us giving. We're constantly giving to our clients. We're giving to our teammates. Every investment that we make is so that we can be a better advisor to our clients. Yeah. And this wasn't for any of that, but it made me a better advisor to my clients by investing and by filling my own cup.
Yes.
All of a sudden I had more to give.
If you weren't going to say that, I was going to say that. The moment you started saying give and give over and over again, made me realize the point that you just made. You can only give as much as you have to give. And if you are not filling yourself first, it's like on the airplane, they always ask you to put on your mask first before you help someone else. Being in such a service-heavy industry, yes, there's the typical components of you do the numbers, you put the annotations on the documents, but let's all face it, that's not the, how do I want to say this? One, AI is going to start taking stuff like that away because it can. Two, even today with AI as it is, or even yesterday without AI, I mean, metaphorical yesterday, right? The relationship really is such a key component, maybe the most important component of keeping a business moving forward, retaining clients, improving those relationships, getting more revenue opportunities as a result, right? Yeah, that we cannot underemphasize or overemphasize, what would be the right one here? Enough, the importance of filling your cup. And it's not, I almost said self-care, but I feel like self-care has been on this interesting journey of like what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the bath bombs, the face masks, at least what I hear as a woman. It's not the getting your nails done. It's this. It's being well rested. It's physical movement. It's meditation or whatever you want to do there to connect with something beyond yourself. It's serving. I think other opportunities outside of your actual profession. I think family is a big component of that. We're getting into a lot of Casey's philosophies here too, though.
I love it.
But it's recognizing that you're not an accounting machine. You're not.
You're more than an accountant.
Yes.
You're a human first.
Exactly. And I actually do love what AI is doing for this industry because I think it can. If you're not feeling this way, I want you to, by the end of this episode, know that AI, first and foremost, again, is not stealing your job, but it's helping you leverage your skills and understanding as an accountant so you can check the things that it might help you do and do them faster so that you can more fully step into your actual role, which is the strategic advisor. And though it's not said there, those two words are a relationship. It's human connections.
100%. I mean, it is. I use AI in my life, professionally and personally, every single day. And it is not stealing my job. It's making me better at what I do.
Uh-huh.
Percent. When I think about having to go back to the days before AI, I still got stuff done, but now I'm able to do it better. I'm still the subject matter expert when I'm using AI. I'm still know if it's right or wrong. It's just making it more frictionless. I think that's the word that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Is that it makes my job less, it reduces the friction of what I'm trying to get done. So I love that.
Yeah. That was a good way to summarize things. Makes things less, it's frictionless. There we go.
Yeah.
To wrap up today's episode, I want to ask you a few rapid fire questions.
All right.
What is one app or tool you cannot live without?
At this point, ChatGPT.
I'm right there with you. I was so hesitant for a while. I was like, how is this going to help me? I'm in a similar position to accountants. A lot of my job is critical thinking, is working through things, is mental processes, it's documentation. I'm like, how is this going to help speed up my work? And then when I found it, it's been a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just use it.
Yep. But who inspires you inside the accounting profession?
I just met Jennifer Wilson from Convergence Coaching about 2 years ago. And man, is she a powerhouse. And she inspires me every day. I think she's a great human. I love how she's empowered women in our industry and she advocates for what's right, not what's easy. And I love the fact that she has those hard conversations unapologetically. She's just an incredible human.
Love it. Okay, last question. What's a common myth about accountants you love to disprove?
That we're not fun.
Why is that a thing? I have met so many fun accountants.
Some of I would say most of the funnest people I know, is that a word, funnest? Most fun, I think. Sorry, my 8th grade English teacher. Are accountants. They're so fun. They're so fun and quirky and creative and, just amazing, fun people.
Yeah, I don't know if we think math is not fun and then therefore accountants, no fun. But I've heard that one too and I'm like, I don't see it. I don't see it.
I don't see it either. I don't know if it's because of, people think taxes aren't fun. So the people that work with preparing taxes, how could they possibly be fun? But that's just, there's people, think about this. Like I have horses, so I have to go and muck their stalls, right? And there's people that do that for a living. Mucking for most people is not fun, but I'm sure the people that muck stalls are fun, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know that. I know that to be true.
Weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you again, Heather. It was such a delightful conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Casey. This was a lot of fun.